I am ready. I'm good. The voice, yeah. Oh, we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it.
You can scream and shout with all your might.
Scream and shout all you want. Biatch!
Dig in your heels and hold on tight.
You better back the fuck up before you get jacked the fuck up.
Either you are wrong or I am right.
And don't forget the ever-present third option. The most likely possibility. You are wrong and I am right. Thank you. Okay, we are ready to go. The crowd is going wild. Feeling good. We're going to get this down. See, I had this whole big dilemma about doing this edition of Stating the Obvious, which is, do I summarize the movie that I'm going to be talking about? Finally, I decided that no, I'm not. We're going to do this. We're going to make the assumption that whoever's listening to this has actually seen the movie. So if you have not seen the movie Crimes and Misdemeanors by Woody Allen, you might want to go get it. Otherwise, you might be a little bit lost. In the control room at, what time is it? At 5:42 in the morning. On, oh yeah, because I got to start dating these. What's today? Randy, quick, what's the date? Yeah, 16th of February, 2005. At 5:42. We are here. The lovely, the adorable, the charming Randy over in the control room. And of course myself, your host, Skip Doggy Dog, here in the recording studio, laying it down like it is. Stating the Obvious brought to you, of course, by the Cynical Libertarian Society. The email address, if you want to hit me up, is sto@204esouth.com. Got my coffee. Yeah, I don't know if you hear the music in the background or not, but I got a little opera going on. Kind of get the blood flowing this morning before I tromp out into the frozen wastelands of Fort Collins, Colorado. It's snowy and shitty out there. I'm a little behind in the STOs. A lot of stress in Skip Dog's life lately. Doing a play about Blue. Working on the Scarlet Letter, which it's kind of scarletly. Well, the play doesn't suck. Well, no. The actors and stuff. What sucks is the script. I don't know what the director sees in the script, but that's not my problem. I'm not really thrilled with it. But anyway, it's been sucking up a lot of my life. But nonetheless, here I am, early in the morning, for you people, to educate and to enlighten. You people. Coffee. I love it. Alright, now, boom, let's get started. For my ethics class, we watched the movie Crimes and Misdemeanors. Now, this was done in the context of why should you be moral? Why should you be ethical? And all this other blah, blah, blah stuff. And, of course, we discussed, Plato and and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And I think the point of watching this movie was to illustrate to us why we're supposed to be moral. If that was the point, it, of course, totally failed. Because what this movie showed us, this movie showed us a lot of things. This movie showed us you don't need to be moral. In fact, it showed us that being moral will hinder you from succeeding in life. It also showed us a lot of problems that we have in our society in regards to monogamous marriage. So, I actually have notes for this one, and you will find the notes are going to be posted on the website. You can see the very notes that I am doing this from. So I'm going to follow my notes here. I'm not necessarily sure these are in the most exquisite order for the presentation, but you know what? I don't care. It doesn't matter. We're just dealing with it. And why is my CPU usage so high on the recording computer? Oh, okay. Okay. Right. Okay, that's fine. That's good. Alright, sorry, Randy and I were talking technical issues. Another big swig of coffee. Alright, let's do this. Observations from the movie Crimes and Misdemeanors. My first observation after watching this movie is that this simply showed us how easy it is for marriage to ruin people's lives. The two main characters in this thing, Woody Allen and Martin Landau, who I refer to as Woody and Martin, both of these men had their life ruined in some way or another by marriage. Woody's character had his life ruined by marriage because he's married to somebody he doesn't love. She doesn't love him, and he meets this woman he does love, but since he's married, he can't do anything about it, and so she goes off and marries this guy that Woody Allen can't stand and despises and all this other stuff. Martin Landau's problem, of course, is that he's married to a woman, and then he has an affair, and then the woman he has an affair with decides she wants to blow his cover because Martin, being, of course, a dumbass, made her promises about divorcing his wife and everything, which, man, if you're gonna fuck something on the side, that's cool. I got no problem with that. But, man, don't tell her shit like, oh, one day we'll have lots of time to spend together. Because, see, to a woman, that translates into, I'm going to divorce my wife and be with you. And, I can see her point, because that is what you're saying. Don't, if you get some pussy on the side, don't make the bitch no promises. Alright. So, where was I? Train of thought. Randy, quick. Whoosh, boom. Oh, yeah. So Martin Landau boinks Dolores is the name of the woman he boinked on the side. Martin boinked Dolores. Then Dolores threatens to tell Martin's wife and blow everything. And, of course, Martin is a very well-off and very well-known optometrist. And so he has a reputation and a lot of money to defend and all this other stuff. So Martin has his brother, who has connections in the underworld, have somebody else kill Dolores in order to shut her up. And of course, initially, Martin Landau's character has a emotional, psychological problem with the fact that he was involved with this, and he approaches a breakdown. And then, of course, in my opinion, this was the part of the movie where I'm screaming at the television. Well, I didn't actually scream at the television, figuratively speaking. If I'd have been watching it at home by myself, I would have screamed at the television. I'm saying, Martin, will you get over it? You made the choice, you did the actions, now you have to live with it. Now stop your fucking whining and self-pity bullshit. And eventually he did, and once he did, everything was great. At the end of the movie, Martin's character is happy, and he's just, hey, everything's cool. Life is good. Of course, Woody Allen's character is a little fucking loser. And I'm pretty sure we'll get to that in a little bit. Second observation here. Now, of course, this whole thing, well, not the whole thing, but a central part of this, the movie revolved around marriage and monogamy, and you're in these monogamous marriages. Marriage and monogamy, and you're in a monogamous marriage. Hey, I'm doing good at repeating myself this early in the morning, aren't I? This brings up the questions, is having sex with multiple people right or wrong? I will tell you that having sex with multiple people, and we're not talking about multiple people like threesomes and foursomes, although there's nothing wrong with that either. Right now we're saying it's Monday and I have sex with Lisa, then on Tuesday I have sex with Amanda, and then on Wednesday I have sex with Lisa, and then on Thursday I have sex with Amanda. And Friday is, of course, the day I have sex with Lisa and Amanda. But so we're just talking about Monday through Thursday. Is having sex with multiple people right or wrong? And I will submit that it is right. It's perfectly ethically okay. Now, of course, people will say, well, what about when you're married, you can't do these things? Okay, now, here we have a legitimate point, and I will concur. If you take the vows of marriage, or if you make another human being a promise, you say to them, I am not going to boink anybody except for you. Or if you make your marriage vows, and I'm assuming somewhere in the marriage vows, and I don't actually know this because I've never been married, and God help me if I ever do get married, because I'll kill myself. Oh my gosh, excuse me, folks. I am very sorry. If I ever do get married, it's going to be to a very rich, very old woman with a weak heart. When you take your vows, assuming that somewhere in the vows there's something about not boinking other people, or if you promise another human being, hey, Amanda, I'm only going to stick my little wee-wee into you, and I won't ever boink anybody else. Then you go and boink somebody else. Okay, yes, you have broken the promise. You've broken your word. You've broken the vows. This is ethically wrong. However, the actual act, the actual fact that you simply boinked another human being, that still isn't wrong. There's still nothing wrong with that ethically or morally. the lying part, or the breaking of the vows part, or the breaking of the promise part, whichever way you want to phrase that. That part's wrong. The actual breaking part is still perfectly ethnically sound and legit. In the movie, the number 3, in the movie, we see that marriage caused a number, if not most, of these characters' problems. Problems that were caused by the characters being married. Woody Allen's character is stuck with a woman that he is not in love with, not interested in, making his life miserable. And of course, she's stuck with him. She doesn't love him either, so that's making her life miserable as well. Woody is trapped in that when he does meet somebody he likes, he can't make the move and get the stuff because he's still married. And he feels some level of obligation still, even though he doesn't love his wife anymore. Of course, this also penalizes him because the fact that he has to wait until he's not going to be married anymore gives Alan Alda's character the chance to swoop in and swipe Woody Allen's chick that he loves. No, I don't remember her name at all, or her character's name, and I don't have my notes from the movie, and it doesn't matter that much. Martin's character, on the other hand, Martin, now here's where we're going to get interesting. Martin Landau's character is married, so he has made these vows he's not going to boink anybody else. He has an affair outside of his marriage, and since Dolores threatens to blow the top off of it, Martin Landau has to have her killed in order to cover all of this up. Now let's ask the root question here, the root question. Why did Martin Landau have to have her killed? He had to have her killed to cover up the affair. Why did he have to cover up the affair? Well, he had to cover up the affair because she was going to contact his wife and tell his wife all about it. Now, why was this going to be such a bad thing? Well, because it was going to ruin Martin Landau's marriage, ruin his reputation, ruin his standing in society, possibly ruin him financially. Now, why were all of these things going to happen? They were going to happen because Martin Landau married a woman and made a vow to her that he would not have sex with any other human being, even though spending your entire life having sex with one human being is about as unnatural as anything you can imagine. And I think I'm going to mention this later, but by the way, for those of you who are saying that animals are monogamous, animals are not monogamous. I got news for you. And I need to find the title and authors of this book and put it in my references, and I know it's around here somewhere. There's a book written a couple of years ago, fairly recent research by a couple of scientists who went out to find animal monogamy, and they found one animal that was monogamous, and that's because the male attaches itself to the female and stays there for the rest of its life. There is no monogamy in the animal kingdom. Anybody who has pet cats or dogs can tell you this. You know, if you have a male dog and a female dog and you don't have either of them fixed or neutered, I guarantee you those dogs will have sex with dogs other than each other. Cattle. You know, if animals are monogamous, why do ranchers have 2,000 head of why do ranchers have 2,000 head of heifers and only 3 bulls? You know, sorry, animals are not monogamous. Coffee? Coffee. And opera? Opera, okay, good. Randy, where was my train of thought? Yes! Why Martin took the vows. He's married, he says, I'm not going to boink anybody but you. And if it comes out that he boinked somebody other than his wife, boom, end of game. Life ruined, everything's over. Why did Martin take these vows, marry this woman, and tell her, I'm not going to boink anybody in the rest of my life except for you? He did it because this is what society expects. I mean, what man in his right mind, how many of you men out there are really sitting around thinking, man, you know what? I really want to just find one girl, preferably as young as I possibly can, and I want to marry her, and I want to never have sex with another woman in my life. I want to only have sex with the same woman for the rest of my life. How many of you men out there are really, truly thinking that? I mean, deep down inside. I want you to go deep down inside. How many of you are thinking that? So that's what I thought. Now, how many of you, on the surface level, of course, are thinking, well, I need to find a woman and get married and spit out some puppies and be a really boring piece of shit guy who works from 9 to 5 every day and pays my taxes and never questions authority. Most of you are thinking that. And why are you thinking that? Because that is what society has conditioned you to think. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a good reason for this. It's control. It's because you can't, everybody in society can't be powerful. You have to have, for every powerful person, you have to have thousands of, what's the politically correct word for slaves? Slaves? Okay, thanks. You're a big help, Randy. For every powerful person, you have to have thousands of peons, thousands of slaves to dig the ditches and to take out the trash and everything else. So not all of you out there can create your own morality like myself and other people that I'm going to talk about in this thing. Some of you have to be the dirt that we good people walk on. That's your purpose, that's your existence. And getting you married and controlled and calmed down and everything is part of the control process that allows us to manipulate you and use you. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But Martin's character was obviously not one of the little people. He was one of the more powerful people. So why did he attempt to conform to these standards? He attempted to conform to these standards because this is what society shoves down your throat. So here's cutting out all the middle. Here's the short version. Martin got married and tried to be monogamous because society, the existing culture of morals, told him that's the right thing to do. Because of his affair with Dolores and the threat to blow all of this open, he had to do something that he normally would not have done. He had to have Dolores murdered. Now here's what's interesting. Society says you should only boink one person at a time. Or you should only boink one person in your life, depending on who you talk to, depending on what stage of religious belief they have. While, in fact, boinking more than one person at a time is clearly not unethical. Martin, in order to maintain the illusion that he was conforming to a belief that is ethical, only boinking one person at a time, when in fact boinking multiple people is not unethical, Martin, in order to convince the world around him he was conforming to this belief, actually went and did something that is clearly unethical. He had Dolores murdered. Now, when attempting to fit in with society causes you to do things like murder people, I think we have a problem. If instead we had a system whereby which you could be married and still have sex with other people, you could have open marriages or you could have group marriages, which, gee, I wonder if Skippy supports group marriages. For those of you who may not be in the know on this, the answer to that is yes. And I will also be I need to do sometime in the future, I put that on the next one, why I am opposed to gay marriage as it is currently being espoused. But that's another topic. Here's the thing. If we lived in a society where Martin Landau was able to have relationships outside of his marriage with other people and it not be a big deal, he would not have had to have Dolores killed. Not only that, but here's the great thing. If you've seen the movie, you will recognize that Dolores obviously had some mental, psychological issues. I'm not a psychiatrist, but the woman obviously had something going on. Here's the thing. If Martin had been able to have sex with her and have an emotional, romantic relationship with her openly, without any threat of ruining his reputation, not only would Dolores still be alive, but Martin, because he's got a lot of money, and because he's in a medical profession, he could have very easily hooked her up with the very best head doctor around, and it could have helped her. Not only would Dolores still be alive, she could be psychologically happy as well. Yeah. Yeah. Right. No, that'll come up in a little bit. So, number 4. As I'm watching this film, I'm thinking to myself, this is totally Marquis de Sade. For those of you who have not read Marquis de Sade, you should. I'm looking at my formatting here on my notes. I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. Alright. Ta-da! This film is totally Marquis de Sade. It reminds me of the Marquis de Sade story, I don't remember the name of it, where you have the two sisters, and one of the sisters is morally upright. She never does anything wrong, not even the slightest thing. She wouldn't even lie to save her life. She wouldn't it's so sad. The other one is not above doing something unethical if she needs to. At the end of the story, that little ethical sister has absolutely nothing. She's been used and abused and shit on by everybody in the country. While the sister who's willing to be unethical occasionally is rich and powerful and well-known and is living it up. And here in this movie we see almost exactly the same thing. How are we doing on time? Excellent. The Woody Allen character is the most moral person in the... Well, not the most moral person in the film. Of the two main characters, Woody and Martin, Woody Allen is the more moral character. While he's in a marriage, the only thing he does is kiss the other woman that he's in love with. He doesn't boink or anything. And he tries to be a good person all the time, and blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the movie, Woody Allen's wife is divorcing him. Woody Allen's wife has found another man. Woody Allen has lost the woman he's in love with. Woody Allen, who makes documentaries, is not going to get his documentary shown on television. Furthermore, the man he's making his documentary about is now dead because he's killed himself. Woody Allen is a complete fucking loser. Martin Landau, on the other hand, we can just segue here. This 4 and 5 will segue into each other. Martin Landau, on the other hand, at the beginning of the movie, he's rich, he's well-known, he's influential, he's educated, he's got, an ugly wife, actually, I'd divorce her. And he's got the pretty daughter that don't go there, Randy. He's got the daughter and the son-in-law, and he's got the friends, and what else has he got? He's got the everything. And in the scope of the movie, coffee. In the scope of the movie, we find out that he has done 3 ethically questionable things. At least. At a minimum. These 3 questionable things are, it comes out that he shuffled some funds around when he was getting started with his business. It doesn't actually become clear to us exactly what he shuffled from where. Was it his money, or was it, say, a hospital's money, or whatever? We don't really find out exactly what happened there, because Dolores threatens that she might blow the lid on that also, not just on the fact they had an affair. So Martin shuffled some funds, which is potentially unethical, depending upon the details of it. Martin had the affair with Dolores, which is unethical, in that he broke his promise to his wife to not boink anybody else. Martin killed Dolores, which is unethical, in that you do not... Of course, there's also the problem where you say, it's unethical to kill people without a good reason. It's unethical to kill people arbitrarily. This, of course, brings us to rationalization, and the question, was he justified in killing Dolores? Some people might say he was, and that question is not what we're going to talk about here. Because, I can definitely come up with opinions on that, but that's right. That is not in the scope of this particular edition of Stating the Obvious. So he did these 3 unethical things, or questionable. Well, one of them is questionable, one of them is the other 2 aren't necessarily. Because of these 3 things he's done, he's got everything. He's still got everything he had at the beginning. He's got the money, he's got the power, he's got the fame, he's got the education, he's got the nice house, he's got the friends, he's got the wife. You know what? I'm going to lay it out. If If I could do 3 unethical things and have everything he's got, I'd do it in a heartbeat. It's a good trade-off. Now, here's where it comes. People say, what, would that include killing? I'm going to say, if you told me I had to kill another human being to have everything he had, except for the ugly wife, I'd do it, depending on who that person was. Yeah, you know what? We are going to deviate a little bit before we come back to number 5. Now, of course, many of you are saying, my God, I can't believe you said that. You'd kill another person for money. The answer to that question is damn straight. And here's why. Because we live, philosophers and philosophy people live in this fantasy world. They live in the fantasy world where all human life is equal. They'll tell you this shit. They'll tell you all human life is equal. One human life is not worth more than another human life. Bullshit. Now, yes, theoretically speaking, philosophically speaking, even theologically speaking, I could see this. You as a distant, impartial observer, you're standing on the moon, you're looking down on the earth, you can make this decision that yes, all human life is equal. The problem is, we as human beings are not impartial observers. To each person, each individual person taken one at a time, all human life is not equal. Now here's your thought experiment. I want you to go over to my forum, and you will find a poll there about this. And you feel free to go vote in this poll and vote honestly. If you can do that, if you're ethical enough to vote honestly, I want you to vote honestly. Here's your thought experiment. You're in a room. In the room with you is a man in black from the government. Adolf Hitler, pretend he's still alive, pretend the war just ended, okay? It's 2 years after World War II ended. Adolf Hitler is still alive. Adolf Hitler and your mother. Now, the MIB hands you a pistol, .45 caliber, loaded with hollow point bullets, and he says, here's your choices. You can shoot Adolf Hitler in the head. You can shoot your mother in the head. You can flip a coin, heads your mother, tails Adolf Hitler, and shoot whichever person comes up by the coin flip. Or you can shoot yourself in the head. You can't shoot the MIB, because if you shoot the MIB, another MIB will just come in the room, because that does, so case those bodies will just keep piling up and you'll run out of ammo. That doesn't work. My question is, how many people would kill Adolf Hitler? How many people would kill your mother? How many people would shoot yourself? How many of you would flip the coin? Now here's the truth. Here's the answer. Unless you're willing to say, I would flip the coin, and if it came up, shoot my mother, I would shoot my mother. And if it came up, shoot Hitler, I'd shoot Hitler. You can't tell me that one human life is not worth more than another human life. How many of you would be willing to flip the coin and take a chance on having to kill your mother to let Adolf Hitler live? Honestly, deep down inside. Now, I know some of you might, because you're pissed off at your mother right now, and that's cool. But for the most part, most people can definitely sit here and say, my mother's life is worth more to me than Adolf Hitler's life. You might not, so see, from the impartial observer on the moon, Hitler and your mother might be equivalent. But each of us has our own biases. So somebody said, Skippy, you would kill somebody for money? I would say, yeah, it depends on who it is. What if this person was a rapist? I could maybe do that. What if this person was a child molester? I could probably do that. What if this person was a neo-Nazi? I might be able to do that. What if this person was a lawyer? I could do that. What if this person was a Democrat? I could do that. So it depends on the particulars of the person I'm being asked to kill. Anybody who says that they're, and of course the left wing out there is going perfectly nuts right now because of their tolerance and their bullshit and all this other stuff. But how willing would these people be if they had the chance to kill George Bush? Or to kill Pat Robertson? Or any of these other people. So don't even try this moralizing shit with me about how all human life is sacred. Because we all know that most of you people out there say that, but you don't really believe it. You just say that for the effect. Now, let's segue back to where we were. Let's take a look at this in real life, because we're talking about a movie. And for the sake of the class and for this discussion, we're assuming the movie is real, quote-unquote real. But you can always fall back on the argument, well, it's just a movie, it doesn't really matter. And that's a legit position to do. I have no problem with that. So let's take a look at real life. We've gone over the 3 things that Martin's character did. Now let's see, who in the real world could we draw an equivalent to with this? Let's see, manipulating money, having sex outside of marriage, and killing people in order to keep secrets. Gosh, who in the real world could possibly fit this pattern? The Clintons! Let's take a look at this. Hillary Clinton, cattle futures, lots of money. We don't know exactly what went on there, but we know that technically speaking it was illegal. Maybe not unethical, and don't get me wrong, just as in Martin's case. I'm going to say the same thing about the Clintons. I don't know exactly what went on there. Technically speaking, it was illegal, but whether or not it was unethical, different question. I'm not going to I'm not for a moment going to say that what Hillary Clinton did with her cattle futures to get all that money was unethical. I'm not going to say that, because I don't know the particulars. And even if it was completely illegal, as we all know, illegal does not equal unethical. If you believe that, you're a total fucking idiot, and you can stop listening right now, because you are nowhere near my intellect level. Illegal does not equal unethical. There are many things that are illegal which are perfectly ethical and right. Nonetheless, parallel number 1 fits perfectly with the Clintons. Parallel number 2, Martin had sex outside of marriage. I mean, do I really need to explain Bill Clinton and sex outside of marriage? Is there anybody out there who needs this one explained? If there is, stop listening right now, because you are not on my level. Parallel number 3. In order to keep the secrets, Martin has Dolores killed. Bill and Hillary, in order to shut him up, have Vince Foster killed. And then very badly, they pretend that this was a suicide. Now, of course, many of you out there are going, hey, they did not have Vince Foster killed. That was a vast right-wing conspiracy. Of course it was. This is like the all-purpose excuse the Clintons trotted out every time anything went wrong. The vast right-wing conspiracy. Let me guess. This vast right-wing conspiracy was engineered by what? G.W. Bush? The man can't even talk straight. How's he going to engineer a vast right-wing conspiracy? Like it or not, accept this fact, and you don't, I know many of you out there are not going to be able to cope with this. There's a simple fact. The Clintons had Vince Foster murdered. It's that simple. I know you don't like it, but that's the way it is. And so here we go. So we're sitting in ethics class, we're discussing Martin's character, and everybody is condoning him for these things he's done. And yet here in real life, here are 2 people, the Clintons, who have done exactly the same thing that this character did. Are the Clintons being condemned? Are the Clintons being ostracized? Are the Clintons regarded as morally evil, wrong people? And I don't mean by the religious right. I mean, yeah, we know the religious right that says that. We're talking about by normal, everyday, average people. Yeah, not religious people. Normal, everyday, average people. When I say the religious right, I mean the wackos, of course. I know. Alright, sorry. Train of thought. We're talking about... Randy, what was I talking about? Yes! The normal average person out there does not in any way consider the Clintons to be some kind of morally evil people. Many of you out there listening to this right now consider the Clintons to be your heroes. What does this bring us to? This brings us to... In the class we had a discussion, is morality the way that the weak people keep the strong people in check? This is, of course, part of the beauty of how we strong people manipulate you weak people into doing what we want. See, the exact opposite is true. Morality is the way the strong people keep the weak people in check. See, the strong people create their own morality. We don't need to have morality dictated to us or told to us. We create our own. it's, yeah, no, train of thought. Hold on, I need coffee. Give me a minute, folks. Okay. Yeah, I was going so good there. You see, powerful people work outside of morality. Powerful people create their own morality. Now, when I say powerful, I'm not just talking about powerful as in Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin. And see, this is part of the beauty of it, is that I have to tell you that because most people out there associate power with evil. And that's the way that it's been set up. It's been set up so that you're one of the weak people, and you think about, boy, if I had more power, I'd blah, 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 blah. But then you go, oh, wait, but power is bad, and power is evil. And so I don't want to be bad and evil because I want to be moral. And so I don't want power. And this keeps the small people down. In fact, I will submit that power does not equal evil. I mean, let's look at some powerful people who created their own morality and worked outside conventional morality. Gandhi is one of them. Gandhi looked around, he said, well, the conventional morality is that the Indian people are dominated by the British, and we have to obey all these rules and all this other bullshit. And Gandhi looked around, he said, no, I'm not buying the bullshit. I am going to create my own morality. I'm going to do my own thing. He created the morality of, I'm having a brain cramp, Randy, what do you call it? Peaceful resistance. There's another word for it. I can't think of it. You people out there know what I'm talking about. Gandhi created his own morality, and he imposed that morality on the world around him. Eventually, he helped to free India from the rule of England. He did his thing. He did not allow the prevailing morality to tell him what to do. Another person who created their own morality was Martin Luther King Jr. MLK looked around, he said, the prevailing morality is that I drink from the water fountain that says coloreds, and the Caucasians drink from the water fountain that says white people. He said, you know what, I'm not buying the bullshit. I have power, I am going to create my own morality. And he did so. He created his own morality, in which everybody was judged by the content of their character, not the quality of their skin, the color of their skin. And he attempted to impose his morality on the world. He did a fairly good job, although we still judge people by their skin color. Even though we run around lying and saying we don't, we still do. Of course, now it's just the opposite. Now, if you're black, you automatically get the job, or you automatically get in college. It's kind of reverse discrimination. It's still discrimination. But the point is, you can't. I don't blame that failure on MLK. I mean, he did what he could. I mean, I believe he was in the right place, intellectually, philosophically, morally, ethically. He did his thing. The point is, he was a powerful person. He operated outside of the existing morality. He created his own ethical reality, and he went for it. So you see, powerful does not have to be evil, like Stalin and Hitler and Clinton and Bush. Yeah. Right. So I'm trying to, okay. Yeah. Alright, I'm trying to remember. Coffee. Okay. I'm trying to think if I covered everything I need to cover there because I was going for it. Clinton's, yeah, morality, yeah, transcend, powerful, yeah. Okay, I think I managed to cover all of that. So number 6. Boy, this is taking a lot. Randy, this is taking way longer than I thought it would. I know, this may end up having to be a 2-parter. I'm only on page 1 of my notes. We may be back here soon for this. Okay, number 6. What does this film show us that marriage is? I mean, from looking at the marriages in this film, if you had never heard of marriage before, if you're from another planet and you come here and you watch this film, and you see this institution of marriage presented here, when it's over with, you would look at this and you would say, well, marriage is what? Marriage is stagnation. Marriage is emotionally crippling. It instantly brings up to me the phrase familiarity breeds contempt, which for me holds true. Marriage is psychological and emotional slavery. Marriage is people trapped in hells of their own making. And let me go back to the slavery part. Do I want to hit up on that right now? Is that in my notes anywhere? You know what? Okay, we'll come back to that. That might have to happen later. The slavery part. What is the actual purpose of marriage? The actual purpose of marriage is to keep the population under control. It's to keep these small little people where they need to be. The purpose of marriage is to create sexual tension. Now, why is this a good thing? Well, let me just skip. Reason number 1 is to keep the population under control. Reason number 2 is to generate sexual tension. Reason number 3 is to stimulate the economy. Now you say, how does marriage stimulate the economy? This brings us back to, and really 1 and 2 are in a way subgroups of number 3. The main purpose of marriage is to stimulate the economy. How does marriage stimulate the economy? Being married creates sexual tension, especially for the man and for the woman if the man isn't sexually pleasing her. If you're in a situation where you are not being sexually fulfilled, and you can't actually go do anything about it, like have sex with somebody else because you're married, that means you have to find other ways to express and release this sexual tension that you're building up. There are many ways to do this, and most of them involve spending money. Computer games are a huge release of sexual tension. You got to buy the computer game, you got to buy the games. Playing computer games also keeps you under control, helps keep population under control, because if you're playing a computer game, you can't possibly be reading a book and learning anything useful. Like, say for example, how most of what the government does is unconstitutional, and therefore you should go out and vote Libertarian. It stimulates the economy because if you have sexual tension, you're not getting what you need. I mean, internet porn. Internet porn makes huge amounts of money. And if people were not sexually frustrated, why would they need internet porn? I mean, it's been a long time since I've hit the internet looking for any pornography. Why? Because I fuck like an animal. I be getting my shit on. I'm not sexually frustrated. Therefore, I do not need to stimulate the economy via internet porn. And sexual frustration causes you to stimulate the economy in all sorts of other ways. I mean, one of our biggest releases here in this country, you're frustrated, and I'll admit I do it too. Not when I'm sexually frustrated, but if I'm frustrated about other things. How many people out there can tell me, how many of you out there know, deep down inside, and you may not even have to be deep down, you know that you're feeling shitty, you're pissed off, whatever, you go out, you buy something for yourself. Buy yourself a present. Or you go out, one of my big things is food. Go out to a good restaurant. When I'm really in a crappy ass mood and things are just going totally shitty, I'll go get me some comfort food. My comfort restaurant is Armadillo. I go there, I eat Armadillo food, I feel better. All of this costs money. If you got a lot of sexual tension, a lot of what's the word that I was going to use there? Sexual frustration. I'm too frustrated, Randy. It's too early in the morning. I can't think. If you've got a lot of sexual frustration, sexual tension, you're going to express this by spending money. Marriage stimulates the economy. Monogamous marriage stimulates the economy by creating a need for more manufactured goods. All right, now let me get a dose of coffee before I go for this one. Okay. Here we go. Let's say that we have 10 people. 5 men and 5 women. Let's say that in one case these people are monogamously married, so that gives us 5 couples. Let's say in the other case that we have group marriages, and we have I gotta do some kind of basic math here. That I'm gonna make this easy on myself. These 10 people are married in 3 different groups. Okay, group marriages. It can be whatever you want. It can be 2 men and a woman, and then 3 women and a man. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's whatever little subgroups you want to have, but there are 3 of them. So in case A, we have 5 monogamous marriages. In case B, we have 3 polygamous marriages. Okay. How does marriage stimulate the economy? Need for more manufactured goods. In case A, how many houses do you need? 5. In case B, how many houses do you need? 3. In case A, how many big screen TVs do you need? 5. In case B, how many big screen TVs do you need? 3. In case A, how many DVD players do you need? 5. In case B, how many DVD players do you need? 3. In case A, how many copies of Casablanca on DVD do you need? 5. In case B, how many copies of Casablanca on DVD do you need? 3. By splitting people into the smallest groups possible, you create the greatest amount of demand for manufactured goods. Not only that, but also services. Electricity. It takes more electricity and natural gas to cool and heat 5 houses than it does to cool and heat 3 houses. By splitting the small people up, I mean, you wonderful people out there, by splitting the people up into the smallest subgroups possible, you create the greatest need for services and manufactured goods. If you ever want to know what it's about, it's simple, people. Just follow the money. Always follow the money. When somebody tells you, I want to save the rainforest, follow the money. When somebody tells you, I want to be a politician in order to make the world better, follow the money. When somebody says, I want to go to college and be a lawyer, follow the money. When Skip Dog tells you to always follow the money, follow the money. It's all the money. Be like, Skippy, you are so cynical. You are such an asshole. You're a bastard. Yes. And it's all fucking true. This is the difference between me and you. Well, that and the fact that most of you at 6:30 in the morning aren't recording editions of Stating the Obvious. And I also have more sex than most of you do. Yeah. How are we doing on time, Randy? Where are we at? We're at 47. Alright. Yeah, well, this is definitely going to be a multi-parter. There's no way I can plug through. I'm only halfway through page 2. Dude, yeah, we may just cut it. Or should I do the slavery thing? Alright, let's go for it. We're going to deviate from the notes here. We're going to do the slavery, and then we're going to be out for the day. We'll finish this up later. I said earlier that marriage is emotional and psychological slavery. It's also physical slavery. I find it fascinating that our society reacts so violently to slavery. And I mean, I realize this is a part of our past with the black slavery in the South and everything. And yet so positively towards marriage. Let's take a look at what is marriage in relationship to slavery. In marriage, you own another human being. Now, some people have made the argument that this is okay because the ownership is, number one, mutual, and number two, it is, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm going to say you are owned by this other person by your own consent. So some philosophers have said that these two things are perfectly acceptable. The mutual ownership is questionable. If the other person has an affair outside the marriage, then obviously the ownership isn't mutual anymore. So does that mean that if the other person has an affair outside the marriage, that you are ethically and morally entitled to have an affair also? I mean, I don't know. I just thought of that offhand. I'm throwing that out there. As far as the consent part, well, you know, I could raise black people to believe that it's okay for them to be slaves. I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to do if you control their education, kind of like the way the government controls the education of everybody in this country. You could do that. And so, yeah, a lot of people in America believe that marriage is okay, and so they willingly consent to enter into it. Does that make it morally or ethically right? In ethics classes, we've talked ad nauseum about female circumcision, and the fact that a lot of the women who get female circumcision believe that it's a good thing and they want to do it because that's what society has conditioned them to do. Does that make it ethically right? And I will say that I think female circumcision is ethically wrong. I think that's a terrible thing to do to a human being. To remove a woman's vocal cords, that would be fine. I'd have no problem with that. But to... No, not just... Randy, you know I'm just kidding. I would exempt you, because if I did not hear the sound of your voice, I know. Besides, how could you put my train of thought back on the rails if you couldn't talk? That's true. That's true. You could write a note. I forgot about that. So we can... I take that back. I won't exempt you. All right. Sorry. Randy, what was I saying? I'm so bad. And then I said that? I said that? Well, I am a genius. I am a genius. Oh, my intelligence amazes myself. So, just because you have been conditioned to believe that you are willingly, happily entering into a monogamous marriage arrangement and that it's the right thing to do, doesn't mean it actually is. It just means you've been conditioned to believe that. Marriage is... Hold it, coffee. Thank you. I'm back. Excuse me. Marriage is physical slavery. When you enter into a marriage, the other human being owns you to a certain extent physically. They are legally entitled to do things like decide if you live or die if you're on an iron lung. They are entitled to have a certain amount of control over your physical property, over your finances. And most importantly, they have exclusive ownership to you sexually as a sexual being. They have the exclusive right to have sex with you, and nobody else has this. This is a physical ownership of a person. I had this talk with a friend of mine, and she was saying that she was having an argument with her boyfriend about showing physical affection to her friends. And that the short of the story is her boyfriend doesn't think she should be allowed to hug or kiss her friends or anything like this. And these people aren't even married yet, so you know this kid is fucked up in the head. Him, not her. She's thankfully not too fucked up in the head yet. That's why I'm trying to save her. When when you're going to tell somebody you're married now, you're not allowed to even hug another person. You're not allowed to kiss another person. You're not allowed to have sex with another person. The only person you can... And these are emotional, physical, human needs. I mean, most people, there are exceptions to this, of course, everyone's different, but most people need the emotional, even if not the physical release, of human contact, of human affection, of sex with other people. These are emotionally healthy things to do and to have. When you're going to tell somebody, you're not allowed to perform these functions with anybody except for this one person. That is ownership. I mean, if I can't explain, I can't, yeah. What's that? Mm-hmm. All right, Randy, do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense to you? Because, I don't think I can explain it any simpler than that. When you're telling another human being, you cannot sexually or emotionally, romantically express yourself with anybody except me. That's ownership. It's also psychological and emotional ownership, because there's sort of this unwritten thing in marriages that you have to have in your life as your ultimate confidant the person you're married to. If you're married to somebody but you're pouring your heart out to somebody else, a lot of people will look at that as being a bad thing. It's like, well, why don't you go to your husband? Why don't you go to your wife? Why don't you go to that person and talk about your problems? You're not only not supposed to have sex with other people and be physically intimate with other people outside the marriage, you're not supposed to be emotionally intimate with people outside the marriage. And I have a major problem with that. Coffee time. Obviously. So these are the reasons why I think marriage is in fact slavery. Of course. Yeah, of course, most of you out there don't agree, but then that's because it's. And here's the thing. Here's why. Well, I think most of it is conditioning. Why Randy's bringing the point. So then, why are so many people so obsessed and focused on getting married? Okay, it's because this shit is beat into people's head. When I took my moral and social problems class back at CSU, we had this little girl in there. She was, 19, maybe 20. Typical, feminazi, kill all the babies, vote straight Democrat, socialize everything, evil, white, capitalist, rich Republican people should be killed, blah, blah, blah. And yet, even she, when we got to this topic, she sat there and she admitted, she said, and I'm paraphrasing her words here, she said, I know that there's a lot of things wrong with this belief, but even I sit around all the time dreaming about my wedding and about how perfect it's going to be and how wonderful it's going to be when I'm married. And intellectually, I know that there's things wrong with this, but I can't help but dreaming about it and wanting it anyway. And this is the thing. See, even people who are capable of recognizing the problems and the flaws in this system are still focusing in. That's not really a very good word for what I'm trying to say here. These people are still desiring to participate in the system, even though knowing it has flaws. And why is this? The reason is because they're fucked up in the heads. Why are they fucked up in the heads? Well, they're fucked up in the heads because the old people have fucked them up. These kids, they grow up, and this is all they have. They have marriage shoved down their throat constantly by their parents, and by the system, and by the government, and by the schools. And of course, this brings us all back to what is the purpose of marriage? The purpose of marriage is to keep the population under control. And that's why you have this system shoved down your throat constantly by the government, by the schools that are run by the government, by the religious leaders who have a vested interest in keeping you under control, by the powerful people like Bill Clinton who flaunt morality and do what they want to anyhow while you're expected to keep your wedding vows. Marriage, ladies and gentlemen, is slavery. It is control. It is manipulation. Monogamous marriage. Monogamous marriage is slavery, control, and manipulation. It is how we keep the rest of you under control. It's how we keep you stimulating the economy. It's how we keep you weak and powerless. And there it is. We are going to have to wait a minute. Randy, did we go over? We did. Holy Toledo. This might be the longest stating the obvious ever. Alright, we're going to bust on out of here. And we will finish this up. This might end up being a 3-parter at the rate that I'm going on. Okay, anyway, Randy, boom, hit the music, and I gotta go because it's work time. Oh God, the fucking joy. So, yeah. Right. We'll see y'all next time around. Bye-bye.